Everyone. I have Rachell Largent Phillips, and she wrote an amazing book called Life Beyond the Flare. And I am really excited to talk to you because you have the distinction of having a disorder I have never heard of, which is very rare. And I absolutely want to talk to you about the aggressive systemic, I'm going to totally mispronounce this, mastocytosis. And yep, and then I want to talk to you about like what that actually looks like day to day, how you got that diagnosis, writing a book while sick. And if I read your biography correctly, you also are going to school.
Yes.
Yeah, we have lots to talk about. Let's start with I hate to like define us by what we have, but I'm so curious about what your disorder is. And it sounds like something that you were born with. This is not something that like
There is a genetic component to it. So yes, I was born with it. They find that it's the gene, it's a KIT gene that has a mutation. Yes, I was born with it. It did not show in me until I was in my 30s. Yeah. And it presented with just a small hive on my left ankle, stayed there for a year, didn't move, didn't progress. And then one morning I woke up, I looked like somebody had poured water from head to toe on me. I had a very bad immune response. I stayed that way a year. Then hives came. Then weird swelling where part of my lip would swell, maybe one of my eyes would swell. Then I started having idiopathic anaphylaxis where there was no rhyme or reason to it. I was actually in school on the East Coast when I finally got to a doctor who thought it could be it. And she was the one that recognized me. It took me 12 years from start to finish. Yeah, 12 years to be diagnosed.
wow. And so you wake up with a small hive, which most of us would just go, okay, that's the thing that's happening and shrug. Then you go into a full anaphylaxis head to toe. I'm unsure of like first, let's do a quick definition of anaphylaxis because I'm guessing
Okay.
there are some people who've never heard of it before. But was this like hives or was it?
The anaphylaxis is where you go, that's an immune response. The anaphylaxis state is where you end up with your throat closes, you have your blood pressure bottoms out. It's a very life threatening situation to be in. And that's when EpiPens are used. So I went from a single hive to a skin immune response to swelling, from weird swelling into having these anaphylactic events, vented numerous times. I've coded several times because of this as well. So it goes from anything as mild as a hive all the way up to like a full anaphylactic event where you're in a life threatening situation.
And is this like mast activation disorder where you don't know what level it's going to be?
It is a form of mast activation disorder.
Oh, okay.
A mast activation disorder is the lower level of this. Same cells, but I'm at the other side of the spectrum of it, with it being I have organ involvement and bone marrow involvement. So it's kind of the same thing, just different ends of the spectrum.
It's like where you know what you're allergic to, or your body just randomly goes, I think this is the problem today.
My body decides day to day what it's going to like and what it doesn't like.
I know that feeling, the chaos of, are you allergic to this? And we'll find out.
You don't know. Yeah, no, you never know. One day I'm fine, next day I'm not, and then I can try it again after that. And oh, okay, I guess I'm fine again.
So do you carry EpiPens? What's
Oh yeah, lots of EpiPens. I have my prescription is for 5 boxes a month. There are months that I use all 5 EpiPens. There's months that I don't use them. It really depends again on how the disease state is within me, that of how many EpiPens and how it progresses. Really day to day.
now I'm guessing you're in the US like I am. Is that
Yeah.
true?
Yes, I'm in.
So, okay. Oh wow. Hi. Are you okay? Blink twice. Anyone in the United States, I'm hoping gets that joke. You have been here for the EpiPen changing prices drastically.
Yes.
So how has that affected you? Because if I remember correctly, EpiPens used to be like $19 and now it's how much?
They are up to almost $400 a box. Yeah, it's ridiculous. For me, it doesn't affect me much because of my insurance. They cover my 100%. I was recently, last year, I was actually on Capitol Hill pushing for the EpiPen Act to get them low where they're capped like insulin at $50 period, $50 per box, regardless if you have insurance or not. Of course, that bill kind of got stalled and never made it past that, but it does not affect me. But I do know people that has affected the cost of them going up. Big children with food allergies.
I know a lot of people who can't afford it and can't have
Wow.
it. The 100% coverage is, I don't know what insurance you have, but I'm so jealous. We do not have that over here. We have an 80% that they'll cover of who knows, after we pay $6,000. I would love to ask you about how you got to Capitol Hill. What was that process like?
Partner, I'm part of, and I work with a nonprofit organization called the Allergy Asthma Network. They're a phenomenal group of people. They have a Capitol Hill Day every year. I've partnered with them to be one of their social media influencers to talk about allergy, asthma, and considering this is an allergic disease, bring awareness for the rare disease that I have for other individuals. So through them, we went to Capitol Hill. I go to Capitol Hill with them. I was just there last week, actually, with them this year.
And what does that process look like? Do you just like knock on Congress people's doors? Do you have meetings set up?
There's meetings set up. You get a schedule, you go in, you share your story, you share facts. If you have them, you share the facts that they give you about allergy and asthma. There are certain bills that they're asking the congressmen to either support or not support. You talk about that and you try to give a personal spin to it. With advocacy, people who have rare disease are not represented much anyway. So it's an honor that, I even got to go and be a representation of that populace, because it's just not something that's there. They don't even, like you, most people haven't even heard of systemic mastocytosis, let alone aggressive systemic mastocytosis, so it's so rare. And I'm not there's rare diseases that I know of that there aren't even medications for right now.
I have one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. I don't mean to keep harping on this, but I know that, well, I know myself personally, I'm looking into activism for chronic pain, and I don't know how to get to that point where you get in front of Capitol Hill. Let's say someone actually is in a place where they can speak to someone in power. What's some advice you would give for how to get your story across in a compelling way, but also a way that gets attention and action?
Honestly, be authentic, be confident going in, understand that. I mean, when you walk in, it's kind of intimidating. It's the senator's office, it's Capitol Hill, the whole government thing. It can be kind of intimidating, but they do care and they do want to hear your story. Well, like I just sat down. I was one of the representatives for Florida and I was with his legislative aide. And after sharing my story and sharing how much the copays not being able to
Hmm.
use, like you have like a GoodX card, you use that card. Well, the money that's paid doesn't go towards your deductible. So we were, trying to push that through to let those copay programs go toward individuals' deductibles with insurance. But how do you do it? You just go in and be authentic. You share your truth. And I think that's very important. You share your truth. You tell them, I may be one person, but know that there's more like me out there than not. You just may not be aware of it. Truthfully, just be honest and open and authentic.
Did writing your book help you in that process?
No, I actually did the very first Capitol Hill Day with advocacy before I started the book.
Okay.
Yeah. So I decided to do the book because I'm a big proponent of advocating and avocation and education. You can't advocate if you're not educated. And when
Mm.
I was going through the process, trying to find answers when I was trying to be diagnosed or after I was diagnosed or any of those things, especially having this rare disease, there was nothing out there. Absolutely nothing out there. The medical community itself doesn't even know about this. So the book came about because it was education. I'm hoping to educate medical professionals in the fact that, hey, this rare disease exists. You may have patients who present this way, be aware of it. And also as a face for patients who are seeking answers, so yes, in a way, this time going in, I felt a little more confident in sharing my story because I had sat down and actually typed it out. So going in, I was able to share things that maybe the first time around I had forgotten to include.
How was the writing process for you when you're talking about something that is such a huge part of your life right now that does, I hate to say that because we're so much more than our disorders, but our disorders are what sort of creates that fence line around what we can and can't do. So how was this process of writing a book for you? Was there anything that really surprised you that you learned about yourself or your disorder while you were writing it? And were there any tools that really helped you write this?
I love to write. So, and I've actually written nonfiction before. So this was a new realm for me. I self-published nonfiction books, but I kind of went around and did this going through the process. There were days that sharing certain parts of it was very emotionally draining. Um, and but I gave myself the grace in those times. In actually writing through everything from beginning to now, I've seen how the disease, while at first it didn't feel like a blessing, maybe it's became one. That came out of this book. And also, I've realized that I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was, which was another thing that came out of this book. And I've always named my friends and I named the disease. We call her Linda. It's because so then she's actually people find that so odd, but then it separates it from me. So when writing that book, if Linda was acting up, I could just put it aside a little bit and deal with what the emotions or whatever was coming with it. But realizing that she's not me, it was, a big thing for me.
Fascinating to never consider that before, but what an interesting way to be able to separate that out. Wow,
And
I've got to think about that. That's interesting.
one of my friends called out, is Linda acting up, or do you have time, or is Linda acting, or almost like it's a child, in a way, because she tantrums like a child, she misbehaves like a child. Some days she's great, so, but yeah, I mean, and it's been a way for us to discuss the disease and discuss the disease state where it's not a matter of, them feeling like they're prying into areas for my life. So it's been a great blessing to have done that. So, I mean, it came about that little, meme, or that little boy that's going, listen, Linda, listen. And there was one time when they were like, why doesn't she just listen? Listen, Linda, listen. It stuck, and she was named.
I gotta think of a name for it. Like, do you name each, or you only have the one disorder, correct? You don't
I
have
also
like
have
the.
hereditary angioedema, and she's Angie. That's Angie.
Okay, so we have multiple names. Yeah, I'm like, wow, that's gonna be a lot of names I'm gonna have to come up with. But I think this could be helpful.
Because then it's not, it's been it's been mentally for me, it's been probably one of the very best things that I've ever.
That is a wonderful tool. And what does giving yourself grace look like for you?
Allowing myself to understand that today's going to be a bad day. I may not get as much done as I want, knowing that it's okay to have to cancel plans at the last minute. It's okay not to have the time, the energy, or the spoons to sometimes take on another person's problem. And that's okay.
Mm,
That's okay. It's okay in that space that, hey, I'm having a really hard day today. I'm having a really hard mental health day today. Is it okay if we table this maybe till tomorrow or the next day? So in giving myself grace, it's allowing me to just be who I am in that moment and in that minute, and maneuvering around the disease the best that I can, and understanding that it may affect that moment. It doesn't affect the overall, if that makes sense.
that does. So if I'm understanding you correctly, I'm just gonna try to rephrase it just to make sure I get it. And
Okay.
that's that there's a brain fog that just took over my entire brain and stopped all actual language from working. That's lovely. I'm understanding correctly what you're saying is that there can be this grain in the sand in like the gas tank, and it's like gumming up the works, but that doesn't mean the entire car is to be thrown out. It's the thing. Okay. Sorry, I was just talking to my son, which meant cars are apparently in my brain right now. So that's how that's going to go today. With that grace, how do you set up rest for yourself? Because what I'm hearing is you're very good with your boundaries, and that's a phenomenal skill I have to learn. And your boundaries are what holds your peace, holds your time, and allows you that time to rest, to be able to get back up and going again. What does rest look like for you? Because I feel like in this country, we've really fooled ourselves into rest means doom scrolling,
Mhm.
or doing things that cost a lot of money, or just I don't know if we actually understand what restorative rest means here in the United States or in other places.
Rest. If I feel like some days that I just need a day, I just want to sleep. That's a
Mhm.
rest day for me. If my body is overly tired, I'm gonna rest. It may mean that I read a book. I'll just sit and read a book. Or even in my rest days, sometimes it means that I'm not active. I'm not up cleaning the house. I'm not up doing laundry. I'm not up doing the dishes. That sink of dishes will be there tomorrow if I need the day to rest. It's okay. It could mean even just sitting down writing, watching a movie,
Mhm.
spending time with my family, playing with my grandkids. So that type of rest that's what resting looks like to me. It's not the act always having to be active and always having to do something. And there's always, you got to be doing this, this, and this, and this to be seen productive. Okay. Being productive can be, okay, today my body needs a day where I just stay in bed and that's okay. I may lay in bed, I may read, I may sleep, I may do all those things. So that's to me what rest is.
Absolutely amazing. Do you have like favorite books that are your comfort books or your comfort movies?
Gosh, I love like they're funny movies. The the like the Legally Blondes, the Easy A's, the Mean Girls,
Oh my goodness, I love that movie so much. Such an underrated film.
The Devil Wears Prada. Another
Mm,
one that gets
so you're just Stanley
repeated.
Tucci films, that's what I'm hearing.
So definitely. I'm wanting to learn French. So I'm starting to read French literature, or trying to read French literature, but I am a big nonfiction person. I love biographies.
Mm.
Love to learn. So I tend to just read really anything and everything.
Yeah, if you could see my house, the entire house is bookshelves. So I very much hear that. I'm always looking for new recommendations. With your disorder, I'm not entirely understanding. So I understand that it's causing exhaustion, but how are you able to navigate everyday life? If you have, if you're saying like mast cell, I know for myself, I don't know what I'm allergic to. So if I go out with people, I don't know if I'm going to have a horrible reaction to bread or wine or anything. I don't know how that's going to go down. How do you navigate all these differences?
Um, like just even being in Washington just recently, I already knew that I probably wasn't going to be able to eat the food that was around. Found there was a Trader Joe's, there was a Whole Foods, so within walking distance. So I went and I got the food for myself and brought it in. So I knew that I was safe and nothing was going to happen with this disorder. And I'm sure even with the MCAD, it's, you never know day to day. You wake up, you may be perfectly fine. And then 5 minutes, literally one day I woke up, I was perfectly fine. I went into the restroom, came out of the restroom, and I was covered from head to toe in hives. And then 10 minutes later, I was having to epi because my throat tried to close. Um, and so every day is a different navigation. I learned like I said, one day food may be safe, the next day it's not safe. I always feel like that I'm in a minefield and I'm
Mm.
maneuvering mines every single day. And one day where I thought an area was safe, I step on it and it's a mine today. So maneuvering a disease like this is hard because it changes second to second. Cause like I could be here with you right now, and in a few minutes I would have to epi because it decided, well, we're just going to have an anaphylactic event right here. And we're going to close your throat and we're going to cause all kinds of problems. So how to maneuver it? Honestly, you have to take it almost minute by minute.
How do you do that? How do you take that minute by minute? Because it feels overwhelming sometimes,
It
especially
is.
when you've got things to do. Like it's one thing when you're going out with friends and you can be like, they know you, they know what's going on. But if you're in a work event or something where you're not around trusted people, how do you take that minute by minute when you're handling things like work events or promotion events?
If I start to feel that something is changing, I'm very good about telling people around me. Hey,
Mm.
I'm starting to feel something, and normally and after having this for as long as I've had it, I've kind of learned, okay, I feel this way. I'm okay. I may feel kind of bad, but it's okay in this moment. But if I feel this way, ooh, I need to let somebody know right away. So in maneuvering those spaces, and even sometimes, like I said, just even in the middle of an event, I may have to be paused and be like, I'm so sorry. My throat is closing and I am stridor, or I'm sitting there. There's been times that I've passed out because my blood pressure has gone so low. So on it, there's no maneuvering it. You just live with it. And in that moment, you deal with it. And if I have to epi, I epi. I'm sorry, everyone, I have to epi. We can continue now. Or I'm sorry, I'm on my way to the hospital.
Yeah, I've had those moments, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and you don't want to be that person because you feel like you're that person, the one that always, and I hate that person, but I don't want to be that person. So a lot of times I don't even share this, the situation going in because, I don't want everybody to kind of look give the looks or things along those lines.
I feel like people know I trust them if I will travel with them. If I'll go somewhere more than like just one meal with them, because then I have to explain like, hey, here's what can happen, here's what can go down, and here's how you'll save my life if it happens. Like, and that's a big thing to put on someone.
It is. It is. I was just recently asked, how do you maneuver? Because I've decided I'm putting myself back out in the dating market. How do you maneuver dating?
Oh, oh, how fun for you. Wow. I want to hear all about this.
I'm still figuring out when to tell. Hey, by the way, I have this disorder that can, I could be sitting here talking to you and you might have to stab me with my EpiPen. But I'm still
I mean,
figuring
isn't that
that
the height of romance right there?
is, it is, it truly is. I mean, there's been instances in the past where I've had to stop and just, in intimate moments, stop and be like, I need to epi. I'm sorry. It's talk about killer romance right there.
I mean, I can help you out with I'm sorry that we need to stop. My hip bone just dislocated. So I'm right there with you. I get it.
It's like I don't think that, and of course being a woman in the middle of all this, and then you have the where you take the prednisone and the prednisone causes you to gain weight, and then and you have all the societal pressures that falls on you as well as a woman trying to maneuver an already complex disease added to
Mm,
it's hard. I mean, I have lost my hair twice. Had totally have gone bald because of this twice.
that's that's such a fraught area. Did you want to talk at all about that? Because I feel like that's
Yeah,
such a
yes.
vulnerable
Yeah.
thing. And there's so many people who are feminine presenting who have hair loss where this is just something that's not discussed. Just like, hair on our faces is not discussed, but we have
Right.
it. And companies make a lot of money off of us saying, oh no, but you can't tell anyone you have this problem. So we'll
Right.
fix this for you for this amount of money, but you can't actually emotionally discuss this because if you talk to other people, find out how many people have hair on their face or don't have hair on their heads, you might realize that's fine. So sorry, that's my sideline. I used to be a
Yeah.
photographer and I used to talk to brand agencies, and my rage at what they've done to us is just very high. But how was it? How'd you navigate that? Is that can be a pretty emotional experience.
Initially I hid. I did not want to post. I'm very open about this disease. I share the good, the bad, and the ugly on my social media feeds because this is a disease that is ugly. It's not pretty. It's not. And one day I just decided, you know what? It's part of it.
Mm.
It's completely bald. I shared the experience of, like after my head was shaved, I was completely bald. I shared when my hair was coming back in. I'm on an oral chemo to control this disease. Well, part of
Uh,
that losing some hair. Even today, getting ready, I was, again, oh, can you see the spots where it's thinning or where it's bald? Because again, it's those societal beauty standards that put so much pressure on us as women anyway. And like I said, when you're maneuvering something that's already eating at your self-esteem as a person, and you add all that other stuff into it, it's hard. Decided that, you know what, I'm going to embrace wigs because I can be a new person today. I can be Sasha if I want to put my wig on and my blonde wig, and and I tried to make it during that period. I tried to make it fun for myself.
hmm.
But it's part of it. It is a part of a lot of our stories. This thing where it's overlooked that, like I said, you're dealing with this disease, but you're also dealing with all this other stuff. And I keep going back to that quote in Barbie. It's almost impossible to be a woman.
That there was some good quotes in that movie.
Yes.
Because that was so right. Like, we can't be too skinny, we can't be too fat, we can't be too smart, we can't be like, there's this insane razor thin line that we're supposed to not just balance on, we're supposed to do like triple cartwheels on and somehow know exactly where it is all the time. And there's you fail once, that's it. There's a quote that I heard, and I can't remember who it was, but it changed my entire life. And it was, we don't owe the world pretty. I think it was Audre Lorde, but
Oh,
I could be wrong there. But it rewrote my brain, as I didn't even realize how much I had internalized that I owed not just the world, but my children were owed a beautiful skinny mother. My mother was owed a beautiful skinny daughter. My father certainly was. That was part of it didn't matter that I like was getting my master's degree. It didn't matter that I did all these things. It was I also owed the world beauty, and everything else after that was fine, but I owed that first. And that was such a damaging, and that was, just something I wrote in my brain as like that's the rule. And when I heard it, I was like, I don't owe the world skinny and beautiful. And nor does being chronically ill mean I'm Beth in Little Women, where I get to die and devolve in the most beautiful way, possibly
Yes,
quietly in the back room. But I get skinnier and die in this very quiet, like tragic way where, but it's still pretty and it's still
right.
polite. And my disorder is not polite or pretty. It involves a lot of swearing and screaming, and it's a lot of swearing. So yeah, it's so interesting to hear you bring that up because I think that's a missing piece in the dialogue. I'm not hearing people talk a lot about this, and I think it's something, especially for the younger. I don't know about you, but as I hit like 40, my give a fuck died.
Yeah.
It just rolled over and died. Like all these things I was holding on so like with talons of what I needed to be, what I needed to appear to the world. I didn't have the energy to appear anymore.
There's days that I don't have the energy to get out of bed, let alone set and put on makeup or do my hair. And there's things that still have to be done in
Yeah.
life. And you have to, when you are chronically ill, there is truth to that spoon theory that you only have so many spoons. And, people, oh, well, that's just a cop out, or I've heard people say that. It's not, it's true. It is a truth.
Oh.
What are those spoons going to be used for? And I'm sorry, there's days that no, I'm not going to put on makeup. No, I'm not going to do my hair. There's days that maybe I don't even take a shower because it's just too much. And
This is about 4 days of no washing.
it is dry shampoos, it works wonders. Literally, like but I, I even in the book talked about when I started going through that period when I would morph, like I would wake up and half literally a line down my face and half my face would be swollen and the other half wouldn't, but I still had to go out in the world and I still had to go to work and people stared and it's very hurtful, and I said, when
Yeah.
it's hurtful. It's it really starts eating at you and your confidence and you as a person, because then, like, I even said, how are we supposed to live in a world when we have a disease where it's morphing you and you look something like out of Leo Da Vinci. I think it's Da Vinci's first heads. You know,
Yes, the grotesqueries.
when you feel like you're one of those and people are looking at you like you're one of those.
Photographing you or posting it online.
Not because, oh, there's something that this needs to be seen. Okay, well, I'm sick. There's a disease, there's a person attached to that.
Yeah.
And like I said, and when I was put on such high dose prednisone when they were trying to maneuver things, that I gained 200 pounds. And, in that moment, I was dealing with my, I'm trying to live, I'm trying to do all these things. And then you have people who are commenting on the fact that I may be a little overweight,
That's the important thing, not whether
that's
you
the important thing.
survive, not whether you die, not
I,
whether you are overweight or not.
yes,
Yeah. That's that's such a enraging, frustrating thing, especially with it gets put into this guise of it's about your health. We're concerned about you. And it's
yes,
like, but I don't see you concerned in that. Like you can be concerned without being rude. You can be concerned without being cruel. And also weight is not a indicative of
who I
an
am.
indicator of health. It's it's one of my furies in life because my weight changes drastically and I have almost no control over it. It has nothing to do with what I eat, or how much I exercise. It has nothing to do with that. It's just random. And when you're talking to doctors, especially if you're female presenting, one of the first things, if you are not like a size zero, is, but what if maybe if you just lost weight? Like it's always
Yes,
the go-to. It's like, hi, I was in a horrible car accident. I'm missing my arm. And if I'm over 120 pounds, the next question is, it would probably get better if you lost 15 pounds. Like it's always that. And I've
it's
heard
always
the
that.
same thing.
Yes,
Yeah. I've heard the same thing from people who are transitioning, where it's like, they're like, that's the first thing they go to is transition. Like, it's like, this is just such a weird thing. Like doctors, you think they get into this field for being curious and wanting to help people. And I feel like both those things get forgotten in that dialogue. Although the one thing that actually ended up helping me in this whole thing was RuPaul's Drag Race. And I'm obsessed. It's a bit of a problem, but watching these people, these humans, embrace being violently who they are. Like, it
Yes.
doesn't matter that Ginger Minch is like 200 and however many pounds she is. She is slaying the runway and she is doing it joyfully. Like what you said about your wigs and just taking something that's a thing that's happening and just how loud and fun can I make this? That RuPaul's Drag Race taught me how to like feel joy in my own body, however it was looking, and also that I cannot get away with glitter eyeshadow. I tried it. I'm not skilled. Nor can I draw a cat eye sharp enough to kill a man. I'm sorry, Taylor. I'm sorry, drag queens. I tried. It does not work. My hands shake. But I love the idea of being loud and joyful. And I think that's probably like in so many ways from like trying to fight the patriarchy, trying to fight these expectations of what it means for us to be in female presenting bodies and in the world, and also, the laws that are trying to be passed right now in our country. I think that that radical, joyful, loud, sparkly is probably one of our best weapons.
Yeah, I agree. Being who we are.
I'm obsessed with Glennon Doyle. She has a new book out called We Can Do Hard Things, and she interviewed Anouk. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at names. One of the most amazing comedians and speakers who discusses gender in one of the most beautiful ways. But talking about how we basically have one job here, and it's to be ourselves, and that when we decide not to, that's the crime, and that like our joyful beautiful selves and whatever that looks like, whether it's if you are a man who wants to wear something flowy and dressy, cheers, mazel tov, blessed be. If you like whatever that looks like, it's not hurting someone, that is your sparkle, and that's the thing you owe the world, is your sparkle, not compliance, not obedience. You owe a sparkle to the world that's yours. No, it could be like your little dark gothic heart sparkles in like black and red and like dark purple. Cheers to that too. I seriously cannot choose between like dark academia and like strawberry cottage core. It can go always, but I really do love that. I'm so sorry. I'm so off track right now, and I just can't
Fine.
help it.
It's true. It is. It's true. I mean, because I even just recently was at a patient conference and we were talking about presenting on social media and how even food allergies aren't pretty the way that it's, like, they aren't Instagram posts, they aren't Instagram reel type things. I even feel like even in that space, everything is beautified and not made to be its authentic self. Because, so I feel because we just like talking about that, and I'm like, be who you, I mean, like I said, I actually had a friend of mine say, well, how can you put up pictures of you where your face is twice the size? How do you feel comfortable doing that? And I'm like, because it's my truth.
And the
I,
chronic illness influencer world scares me. It's gatekeepy, it's suffering Olympics, and it seems to be done in Lululemon yoga pants. And all of that feels so frightening and disingenuous to me. Where I feel like the real power and bravery is, yeah, this is what's happening to my face right now. This is happening to my body. And when we do that, when we're authentic, like to quote Glennon Doyle, you never just free yourself, you free everyone around you.
because then you see yourself in somebody else and you can, because when I was searching for answers, I couldn't find somebody. I could not find anybody that was dealing with what I was going through. And it felt very alone. And, even within the medical community, you don't know what's going on with me. I'm sorry, your doctors aren't you supposed to know? You know,
Did they know? What test did they just do allergy? Like, was this like
um,
symptom based?
she did about it. The only way for a confirmed diagnosis is to go through bone marrow biopsy.
I
So
do not know what that is.
it's where they basically bore a hole in your hip and pull your bone marrow out to test it. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, if you're listening to this and you're not watching it, I think my eyes just went full The Mask from the 1990s. I've heard of a lot of procedures. I've had a lot of bad procedures done. That sounds horrible.
It's very scary. I even wrote about that experience, sharing that when you go to that level of deepness to the inside of your core to try
Yeah.
to get an answer, you're in a very vulnerable state. They're very good at, making you feel comfortable and all of those things. But there's an emotional component to having to have that test done, and even with individuals that I have, in my community on social media, is that because we've built a small community where we kind of surround each other, and I love it. And I'm getting ready to have my bone marrow biopsy, and people will surround them and say, "Are you okay? Here's what to expect. Do you have any questions?" And I love that that support has came from just sharing something as small as, "Hey, I had to have one of these."
I'm so jealous because when I first started getting sick, I was a kid, so I was before the internet. So there was like no support, no one I could ask about like the procedures that were going on. It was just happening. And I like as I'm harping on like the influencer sphere, I'm also really grateful for those communities where you can like the Ehlers-Danlos community is full of us going, am I dying or is this EDS? Like it
Right.
just because when you're dealing with like mast cells or or connective tissue, it affects everything, things you would never consider it would affect. When you wrote the book, I haven't asked you a lot about your family, but how did that work with your friends, your family? Did anyone surprise you with their reactions to your book?
And actually, I live with my sister is my caregiver. I live with my sister and my niece. My sister happens to be a nurse.
That's
So,
lovely. That is
isn't it
family
lovely?
privilege.
Yeah. So when I was writing it, they agreed to be my readers and give me feedback on it. My friends are, I am, and I know this, I am very, very blessed to have the support system that I have. And because not everybody has a support system that is strong and surrounding them. I have friends that I've been friends with since kindergarten who were very excited. A lot of them refer to me as their warrior princess. And
Good.
yeah, and the superhero. But even, they may not like what I shared about that because it puts a lot of pressure on you as a person to continue to be the fighter, the strong one, the one that's never down, the one that always presents this strongness. And you have to be a warrior. And I'm like, even Wonder Woman sometimes takes off her cape. She has to, and I even talked to her like there's an expectation even there, with friends when you do have a disease and you're so sick sometimes and you're fighting and you share your story that you're finding that they expect you just to continuously be that strong, which is why I also tend to share that mental health is so important and it's
Mm.
okay to have bad days. It is okay to cry. It is okay to scream. It's okay to cuss. It's okay to do whatever you need to do to get yourself through it. Even therapy. I'm in therapy. I see a therapist because I've had so much medical trauma and dealing with things that has happened with the medical community as well as dealing with this disease trying to take me out several times. So that's something that I do share is that while we always talk about taking care of our physical health, our mental health is part of that too. And it's very important when you have a rare disease. It is because you feel like people don't understand you. They don't understand it. Um, there's doctors, you feel lost within the medical community. You feel like people don't hear you. It's anxiety. It's always anxiety. You have anxiety or you're having a panic attack. That's not the case.
The way I thought I had undiagnosed anxiety disorder until I found out I had POTS. And it was just that my heart rate was going super fast and super high, unexplained. And it wasn't that I was like unable to process things. It was, yeah.
There's something physically going on inside of my body that you're just ignoring because why?
I think you're probably closer in age. So I don't know if you were like, I'm not quite sure how old you are, but if you remember this time period of like the 80s and 90s,
I'm
they're
54.
pretty close. I'm almost to 50. It's right there. Getting so close. There was very much this idea that anything that was wrong with you if you were female presenting was definitely in your head. Now I know it's still like this now, but back then it was unchecked. And I almost ended up in a mental institution as a teenager because I was in so much pain I couldn't step down on my legs. And it took a nuclear medical scan to show that I had a disorder called CRPS. So it was this medical gaslighting that almost led to some real world consequences of not only not being treated for a disorder that was called the suicide disorder because it's so painful, but also that I was going to be put into a mental hospital because you're a girl and you're hurting and you're a teenager. Obviously, this is in your head. With invisible disorders, we're constantly dealing with this stuff. How are you able to advocate for yourself? Do you take notes before doctor's appointments? Do you bring someone with you? How do you keep holding the lines? I get so scared in doctor's offices. I get like insanely meek and timid when I see a white coat. Like I can barely talk.
Okay, I've actually been asked this. I am a big proponent. I take pictures.
Mm.
take pictures so that I can show them, okay, it may not look like this now, but 3 days ago, this is what was going on with me.
Great plan.
I take notes. I will go into appointments. Here's what I want to talk about. Here's what I'd like to cover today. Can we cover this? I have built a very great medical team. I love my doctor. They're very supportive. We have a lot of shared decision making. It's just, I mean, I'm very blessed in that that's happened, but I would tell anybody to take pictures, take notes, ask questions. If a doctor feels like they're blowing you off, they're not the doctor for you. You can fire a doctor. It's okay. I have done it. I have fired many a doctor. I'm like, you're not the one for me. It's time to find somebody else. Because of the fact that I felt like you weren't listening. I mean, I have literally been in ICUs. They are in the process of venting me, and I've had criticists, I think that's what they are called, look at me and say, how do I treat you? I don't know how to treat you. Tell me how to treat you. And that's a very scary space to be in. I'm like, wait, again, not play a doctor on TV, not a real doctor, but you have to be, I guess, and I guess I learned over time to be confident in that going into those appointments, because if I'm not, I could end up dead.
Exactly.
You know,
You're
I mean, and that's maybe dramatic, but if I'm not in charge, it's
disorders
not
are
good.
dramatic. We get to be
Yeah.
dramatic too.
You know, it's true. I mean, I've had an emergency room doctors look at me and say, you don't have this. And I'm like, well, I'm so glad that your 5 minutes with me outrules any of the bone marrow biopsies that I've had or any of the other subsequent, testing I've had. But your 5 minutes, great. I don't have it. Thank you. And I don't,
Okay.
it is so good. Yeah, it is so good. But even, I guess that was one of the biggest surprises to me, is that I expected after I got a diagnosis that everybody would know what it was. It'd be treated. I could go back to who I was prior to the diagnosis. All the symptoms would go away. And that is not the case at all.
I hate how much like the new modern fairy tales are like House or ER or any of these other like medical shows, and it's such the fairy tale of, and they lived happily ever after. You got your diagnosis and you lived happily ever after. It's like, oh my, how did I believe this?
Not reality. It is not true. Most doctors don't know what I have. Most haven't heard of it. A lot of them don't know how to treat it. Find that I have to teach them about the
Yeah.
disease, So no, I really wish it was like a house.
I would
I mean, it's
deal with a
wonderful.
drug addicted asshole who could actually help me above the smiling, sad face with the big, watery eyes going, this must be so hard for you. I just don't know what I can do for you. Like, I don't know, get curious. Like, you're not Hakeem Jeffries. Like, you can actually do something. Like, go and try to do your job, which is to
Yeah.
ask questions.
I love my doctor because the insurance company wouldn't pay for when I first got put on the nausea med, like Zofrans and things like that weren't working for me. So he tried to get another medication approved. And the insurance company told him she doesn't have the right form of cancer. She can't have this. And he was like, on behalf of my patient, F you. Like, I was like, that's the kind of doctor that I was like, that's my
Yep.
doctor.
Badass. I want someone who will go to the mat and fight for me. I don't want someone who fights me.
Yeah.
Like that's what I do not want to deal with. Real quick, I just want to give people a quick advice, because the photos are such an important thing you just said, and that can absolutely change everything. I did not get a doctor to take me seriously when it's like, I'm dislocating. They're like, no, you're not. You just think you are. And so then I took a photo of my shoulder, like completely out of socket, up by my ear and like towards my face. And then all of a sudden I started getting taken seriously. So if you have an Apple phone, I'm sure that they're saying for Android as well. I think there's like Google Keep or something, but you can have a file that says doctor questions. And then in there, you can keep your photos, you can keep each of your questions. And with Apple reminders, you can set it up for the time of your doctor's appointment and it will trigger that. So, like when you walk into the doctor's, you can do it to place so that, like, if you don't know when your doctor's appointment is, you can just say, when I get to this location, open. And in reminders, it will just do that when you get to your doctor's appointment. You can just hit that button or it will just hit up and it will just open up for you. So you don't have to remember. You can just sort of like randomly keep notes and that works out. So I just wanted to put that out there because it's one of my favorite little things that work for handling my ADD and all the complex medical stuff.
I love that because I'm just constantly scrolling back in my pictures from all this, I'm going, hold on just a second. Here it is.
The photo album on my albums, on my photos called Bones. And it just every time I get a major dislocation, I just take a photo of it and I just put it in there so that it's just prepared and right there, which is lovely. It works out great. I wanted to ask you real quickly because you've gone back to school, which is something I am in the process of actually trying to do. I'm trying to get into a PhD program, and it is scaring the heck out of me. I want to hear from you how you make plans and dreams in a body that's set on random.
How do you do it? A lot of times it maybe I let the school know in advance. First off, that and I went through because they have like ADAs where they have to allow you extra time if you need.
Hmm.
So I went and I had my doctor fill all that information out. That allowed me if I was having a brain foggy type of day, they would give me a little bit of extra time to take my test, or I let them, but you have to communicate with them is one of the things that I've learned is to communicate with your professors and extra time to turn in work, or, they make as much accommodations as they can. My program is online. I don't physically go to a campus, which has been very helpful for me because there's not a lot of walking. There's not a lot of sun exposure, heat exposure, allergen exposure, because I can do it from the comfort of my own home. On days that I don't feel well, I can read or study from bed if I have to. I went back because I wanted something to back me up when I walked in to those spaces like Capitol Hill and things along those lines. I wanted to understand the process. So I went back. I'm attending Georgetown Online, their government and international relations program. And I plan to, after this, I go on and get my master's in public health policy because my goal was in a sick space. I want to be able to fight not only for myself, but for others. And that was the decision. It also mean to feel like life hadn't ended for me. That it's okay to still have goals. It's still okay to have a dream. Even though I may be chronically ill, it's okay to still live. It's okay to still do quote unquote normal things. You may have to maneuver the space a little different, but you can still do it. Like I said, because I know that walking across the campus because I was in school when I got diagnosed. I know that is hard for me and hard for my body. So I just maneuvered it and found a program I could go online.
That is amazing. And my frustration with how the world moved on from COVID is beyond anything I can express. That we had this moment where we agreed that people could go to school online, that we could do work online. And then because some people had some investments in office buildings, we all got left behind again. And that's been so angering for me. So just when you're talking about being able to fire your doctor, you had said that a little earlier, and I didn't jump in with this, but I will now because it's pertinent to this part, which is telemedicine is being defunded.
Yes.
And the bills that are going through are terrifying. It's more than just Medicaid, it's more than just telehealth. It's so scary here in the US. We are, especially if you're sick, you need to pay attention. But when you live in areas that are underserved, you might not have a doctor who is
Yes.
available. And we're looking at OBs don't actually exist in multiple states right now because it's not safe for them to practice. You're looking at people with chronic illness or even mental health, where there's only one therapist in some states. There's only one psychiatrist in 3 states I can think of right off the bat. And that's one. That's it. When we want to be able to fire our doctors or to be able to find a specialist for what we have, sometimes we have to do telemedicine. And that's why it's so important to protect that and to protect the ability to go to school online. We just because our bodies don't work doesn't mean our brains aren't there. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes my brain isn't there. That's fair. In the overall
I
archingness
agree
of it.
100. I agree 100%. I say it's a blessing. Problem. I became disabled because of this. During a flare, I lost use of my body from the diaphragm down. I've got it back, but during that period of time, I could not walk, do any of those things. So I was able to get disability through that period. And that is a whole process in amongst itself. That is just its own beast, trying to get that. But I did, and I'm grateful for it.
You have to be wealthy and healthy enough to get disability
Yeah.
because that is a year of not being able to make money. And it is enough forms that it takes almost 20 hours a week for like 6 months to get through the paperwork.
Well, it's its own, but that is its own beast
Mm,
Oh, yeah, it is. It truly is
Yeah.
that. And because when I moved, even when I moved to Florida, I had it, I got it, and I was told, well, what happened prior to you moving here doesn't count. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah, it does. I don't know who told you that it doesn't count. No, it counts. My medical history is my medical history, be it if I live in Washington, D.C., Indiana, or Florida. You don't get to erase parts of it because I live in a state that, you don't want to take this on, but guess what? I'm here and it is what it is.
It's my frustration right now with watching states decide that Medicaid is something they're willing to cut is yeah. So when people complain about the podcast being political, I will not apologize for that. Being disabled is innately political, and I am willing to fight to the mat for people to be able to survive and live with dignity.
Well, healthcare is political I mean, truly, it is political in nature.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter pretty much everything is, but I do feel that there is a component to healthcare, like I said, because even going to Hill and fighting for your rights and to be heard is political. Writing a letter to your senator because I have Medicaid and you're cutting my Medicaid and I want you to stop. That's still, even though you're fighting for yourself, you're fighting for others in that moment. So yes, I agree with you that there is no, you can't separate it no matter how hard you try because the situation is the situation.
And if any of you are listening and you want to be involved politically, but you don't know where to start, please download these two apps. It's ResistBot and it's 5 calls. And these two apps are free. I am not sponsored, but they make life very easy with 5 calls. You can just choose a issue. It will give you your senator representative's phone number and a script. So if you have phone anxiety, it helps you out tremendously. And ResistBot is for if you have real anxiety and you don't want to talk to anyone, and it will text and fax and mail things out for you. Faxing and the mailing costs money, but the emails are free. So if you need some advice on how to start fighting for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, those are some good places to start. I have stolen you for over an hour, and I cannot thank you enough for your time. I do have one quick question for you. And I just sort of stole this question from Tim Ferriss, and I love it because it gives me a ton of ideas. Is there anything you bought for under $100 that you're like, yes, this, I would have paid anything for this. This helped. And it doesn't have to be healthcare. It could be like a book or a movie or anything. For me, it's like I got a Sealy bed thing that's a heated bed. And it was like $90, and it's like a body heating pad.
Nice.
I'm in love. I'm obsessed. And it's like both sides you can do different. So my husband, who like has a totally different body core temperature than I have, does not get affected by whatever I need.
I would say I bought a blanket that's very soft. It was kind of expensive, but I was, I'm going to splurge. And that has become such a comfort
Oh,
source for me that it was worth every penny of it, because if you don't feel it, you can just wrap up in it and be a burrito.
oh my gosh, yes. Burritoing is such an important part of the process with a good book, a good cup of tea, and burritoing with the soft. Yes, I'm here for it. Rachel, I cannot thank you enough. If you are listening right now and you head over to our website, I will have a direct link to buy Rachel's book. And then if you want any other links, we'll put that there. We will also have full transcripts. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone, be kind, be gentle, whatever it looks like to you, be fierce. If you're trying to get on the show, please remember I am one person and a very sick person at that. So it might take me a while. So have a great time and we'll see you next month.